Hello, everyone. Last week, we talked about that three-part framework where you have you're preparing students to read. What activities can you prepare for them to help them with the reading? During the reading, activities that help students process, construct, and question what they read. And the after or post reading are activities that help students reflect on, integrate, and share thoughts and ideas after they've finished reading. So keep those still in mind. We also talked about patterns of text structure and how it is different than narrative text. Children need to know these key words that authors use in nonfiction informational text so that they can understand it better and they know the pattern that they're looking at. Well, in week 3, we're going to continue to look at that three-part model, but we're going to really look at vocabulary development this week. Current practices in vocabulary employ many methods: choosing words from texts, teaching concepts as well as meaning, and teaching metacognition. Students must be actively involved in word learning. They need to make personal connections with those words to be immersed in that vocabulary. That's something that's very important to keep in mind. By the end of the week, you will have looked at vocabulary instruction, including which words should be taught before giving a reading assignment. So that's a before reading activity. Recognize factors that make some materials more difficult to read than others, and how to adapt content to appropriate levels. You will look at appropriate instructional strategies to use with nonfiction and informational texts, and creating aids for student success in reading skills required by typical assignments within a specific content area. Assignments this week. This is a video on text features, which are different than text structures, and you need to know the difference. We're going to be looking at a nonfiction guided reading lesson. And this is a word sort video. So you're going to watch all of those videos. You're going to read chapter 5 in our textbook, which is all about vocabulary. Chapter 5 discusses identifying and selecting words, how to pre-assess vocabulary. 25 ways to teach vocabulary begins on page 86 in our text and goes through page 97. There are vocabulary visuals. Subject terminology is also discussed. In academic vocabulary or subject terminology, Marzano, that name appears a lot. So if you have an opportunity, look up Marzano vocabulary, and you will find a wealth of knowledge. What we need to remember is we need to give readers various ways to learn and remember new words in all subjects. Vocabulary words can be general, they can be content specific, they can be technical terms, they can connect to the student's world, but we need to make that connection for our students. We want those vocabulary words to be personally relevant for the student. So we have to strategically plan differentiated vocabulary instruction with lessons and assignments so each student's quest to learn new words becomes intriguing challenges. Vocabulary instruction happens in each part of that model. Vocabulary instruction happens before reading, during reading, and after reading. Here is the rubric for the discussion forums. And here is a video about how to implement instruction with nonfiction. Forum 3.1, you're going to choose 2 or 3 vocabulary development strategies that you have discovered or that you've used, and explain how you would or have used them with a particular group of children, and what was the topic, and why. So there's several parts to this forum, so make sure that you hit all of those parts. I would like to talk about the annotated bibliography now that is due in week 5. You're going to use the content standards for your content area to develop an annotated bibliography of 15 words of varying levels that would be appropriate. These can be books you would have students read or books that you intend to read aloud to your students. Your bibliography should be for science, social studies, and math. I'm going to say that again. Your bibliography should contain books for social studies, science, and math. So you're going to have standards or themes or topics, content statements that go with those books for those areas. You need to read as many of these as you possibly can. The annotation should be at least 3 to 5 sentences telling about the book, and if you read the book, an additional few sentences addressing your response to the book. If you did not read the book yourself, give credit for the source of the annotation. Please remember that those are always APA style. The bibliography should have a separate section for each content area. So your bibliography is going to have 3 separate sections. Within each section, those books should be in alphabetical order by author's last names. If you have questions about this, please ask me. Don't wait until week 5 to start this assignment. You will get much more out of it if you start early. So please ask if you have any questions. Next up, I would like to talk about the Dyslexia Assignment, which is due in week 7. Your task for this assignment is to pick a topic in your content area, whether that be science, social studies, or math. Then you're going to pick a content standard that is connected to your topic. Design an activity where you choose a content reading strategy, maybe from the Janet Allen book or the Dyslexia Handbook, which is on Moodle, that you could use with students that have dyslexia. Choose a strategy and explain why you're using it. You need to connect that explanation to resources from our course or from your independent research. The last part of that dyslexia lesson is you create a type of self-assessment that the student with dyslexia can use. The self-assessment is not for the teacher, it is for the students. That needs to be included with this plan. This assignment is submitted to Moodle and Anthology Portfolio. So if you have any questions, please ask. On this plan, you're going to have to write a measurable objective. A measurable objective has a condition, behavior, and criteria. If you have questions about writing measurable learning objectives, please ask. Do not wait until week 7 to ask me about measurable learning outcomes. As I've said, if you have any questions, the earlier you ask, the better. Thank you.